אנחנו, קשה לנו להכיל אותם, וזה קורה לנו כל הזמן, זה קורה לנו כל החיים תמיד, אבל במיוחד בזמן האחרון, אנחנו מכניסים אותם פנימה, כי אנחנו דוחקים אותם פנימה לתוך הגוף, וזה מפעיל אותנו מבפנים, זה עוצר לנו את האנרגיה, זה גורם לנו למחלות, ועל זה אנחנו בעצם מדברים במסע. אנחנו מדברים במסע על איך להתמודד עם כל הרגשות שלנו, איך לפתוח את הלב, להסכים לקבל אותם, ולהמשיך להיות עם לב אוהב, חומל, למרות שמאוד קשה לנו בחיים. דוגמה טובה למשל הייתה לכם, לי, היום, הקטע של הטיל שנפל ליד בן גוריון, ליד שדה התעופה. אני לא יודעת איך אתם, אבל אותי זה מאוד הפחיד. אני הרגשתי איך פתאום כאילו, איזה פחד זה, שדה התעופה זה המקום, כאילו אמור להיות כמעט הכי בטוח. ואם לשם הגיעו, וטיל שלם, אז אני נתקפתי איזשהו פחד, ממש הרגשתי את זה בגוף. עוד שיחות שהיו לי במהלך השנה וחצי האחרונות, אני הרגשתי איך הטראומות האלה, הן כאילו מכסות אותי, הן כאילו נותנות לי איזשהו שריון, בשביל לשמור על עצמי, ולשמור על עצמי מתפקדת, ולשמור על עצמי עובדת, ולשמור על החיים, ולהתנהג עם כולם, אני הרגשתי איך כאילו אני עוטפת את עצמי במין איזשהו שריון, פשוט בשביל לא לתת לדברים להגיע פנימה. והמזל הוא שבאמת אני עשיתי את המסע, והמסע יודע לטפל בזה, ואני הזמנתי במיוחד את ברנדון, שבאמת תדבר איתנו על מה קורה לנו כשיש לנו רגשות קשים, כשקשה לנו להכיל אותם, איך לפתוח, איך ללמוד מה הרגשות שלנו, איך לדבר עם הגוף, למצוא את הרגשות. אין מומחית יותר גדולה מברנדון לעשות את הדברים האלה. So, please let me introduce, אני רוצה, רק רגע, translation, מי שרוצה תרגום, יש לכם למטה, במחשבים, יש לכם שורת בקרה למטה, אם כתוב שם interpretation, יש ציור של גלובוס, תיכנסו פנימה ותבחרו היברו, ואז אתם תשמעו את תרגום סימולטני של ברנדון. כל מי שעוד רוצה. אז ברוכים הבאים, תודה רבה לכל מי שנמצא פה, ו-please let me introduce Brandon. Thank you so much, Brandon, for agreeing to be with us and help us here. It is tough time for all of us, and I know how much connected you are, and please, happy. I'm really happy you're here, and I'm happy. I just told the group here about the kind of the cover that I've put on since the war started a year and a half ago, and how it was so hard to open my heart and connect to love and compassion. And it was hard because you need to keep yourself safe, and all those emotions kind of overflood you. And also this morning was a very good example about that actually almost blew up the airport. So this is, so we're living in very, very tough times, and thank you for coming and helping us.
Oh, I feel so blessed and graced and deeply honored to be part of whatever healing I can help facilitate there. And you know the deep, abiding connection I have with Israel, and how much we've loved serving there in Israel. And we actually have many trauma centers where, you know, I think there's 17 throughout the country, where if you've been through any trauma as a soldier, you've lost a loved one, you've lost, you know, you feel no longer safe. You're hearing the sirens going off, and there's no more defendedness that you can bring around you to feel safe anywhere you go. And I mean, today was an example of that. And so in these trauma centers, in a very gentle way, they help you get to the emotional root cause of what's co-creating it. And so we're doing a lot of work on the ground. The journey is actually being used in 3 different hospitals there in Tel Aviv. So let's say you get a heart attack and you then, after you've had your medical treatment, you go into a recovery center. Yeah, where they actually, okay, someone's speaking over. I don't know if you can hear it, but in any case, what's happening in the hospitals is that once you've undergone, let's say you go to the oncology unit and you're having cancer treatment, or you go to the heart unit and you're having heart treatment, or you're going to for multiple sclerosis, whatever the issue is, where after the medical doctors have finished whatever treatment they have you undergo, then they help you to go through a week-long recovery center where you get to the emotional root cause of what is co-creating the illness. And when it comes to trauma, what science has found is that anytime we feel any strong emotion, so the trauma can come, someone yells at you, criticizes you, and you shut down, or you're in an auto accident and you know what happens. As soon as you're in that auto accident, you freeze and go into shock. Or it can be kind of thing where you hear about someone getting extremely ill and you just freeze, or there's a loss of a loved one. And again, no one gave us a manual how to deal with these emotions. And so what happens is we tend to involuntarily and automatically go into a shutdown, as Irit was talking about, where she, with the constant sirens going off and, war happening around, and, the defense mechanism is to shut our bodies down. And what science has found is when you have that strong emotion and you shut it down, it releases into your bloodstream a quantifiable biochemistry, which will go to certain cell receptors and block them, rendering those cells incapable of communicating with the rest of the cells in the body. And if over time illness happens, it happens where the cells are blocked. Now, conversely, what's also known to be true, if you actually are very natural and stay wide open in your emotions, like a child does, something happens and they burst into tears, they can actually see this in laboratory. Our cell receptors remain open. And there was a whole Kaiser study done with 17,500 people. And at the end of the study, they called it the ACE events, adverse childhood experiences. And an adverse childhood experience can be any trauma. It can be being humiliated at the front of the room when you're in school. It can be that a teacher yells at you. It can be that a parent criticized you, that you were neglected, that you were abandoned, that you lost someone. With adults, it can be, a divorce takes place. In the case of Israel, is happening continuously since that first October 11th event, that the body is continuously going into these shutdowns. And when that happens, that biochemistry is released, and it gets stored in a specific cellular location. And before that cell generation dies, it passes on its programming, its consciousness, the old cell memories, to the next cell generation. And the next cell generation will be born as an exact replica of the previous cell generation. So this old trauma, in very simple layman's terms, it gets buried inside your body. And from the time it remains buried, the programming inside your cells gets passed on from one cell generation to the next. It's why when I finally went to the surgeon and I had a basketball-sized tumor when I was 38 years old, she said to me, this probably started as one cell when you were 8 years old. And then it replicated and became 2 cells. And then by the time, I got at that time, it started growing exponentially and aggressively. And I ended up being diagnosed with this massive tumor inside my belly. And so, what the Kaiser experiment found out with these 17,500 patients is that if you had between 4 and 6 so called traumas, your chances of manifesting illness down the line when you got to be an adult were up to 240% greater. And if you had more than 6 traumas, your life can be shortened by 20%. So, this is why it's so essential that we, all of us, address these traumas and get real about what's happening, as Irit so heartfully exposed to everyone, that even having this work, the fact is, as soon as any kind of trauma happens, that auto accident happens, we automatically, involuntarily go into shock. So Avivit was sharing today, she's one of our journey practitioners, how one of this woman, when she came in after the missile fell near the airport, and she lives close to the airport, and she could feel her building shaking, and she came into her practice just shaking like this. And so these impacts, we think that, oh, well, we're safe with the Iron Dome, and nothing's going to touch me. But then something breaches the Iron Dome, and there's an involuntary trauma response. So the question is, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? And one of the gifts of my own direct lived experience is, over 30 years ago, I was diagnosed with this basketball tumor. And at that time, there was so much science going on in the field of cellular healing and in the field. And so at that time, there was a lot of work going on in the field of cellular healing, and how it was possible to heal. And even though at that time, no one had a method, there was still an understanding of how the cells work. And so when I originally got that diagnosis about, that I had this basketball-sized tumor, and the doctor said to me, she said, Brandon, you're bleeding internally. We need to get you into hospital today. We need to find out, is it benign? Is it cancerous? But it's not going to matter. You're going to have this surgically removed because you're bleeding internally. And I said to her, I'm in the field of complementary medicine and alternative healing, and I'd like to be given a chance to give it my best shot. And I'm trained as a kinesiologist and medical hypnotherapy. I'm a master at NLP. I'm an iridologist. I went on and on with all the different degrees I had. And she said to me, Brandon, if I thought you could go that route, that's what we have in this clinic. This is an integrative medical clinic. And connected to here, we give people acupuncture, we put them on cleanses, we do guided visualization, we even do yoga. And she said, if I thought you could go that route, that's the first route I would prescribe for you. And she said, but look at all these case studies above me. There's not a single woman who's been diagnosed with a mass as large as yours who successfully healed herself. So you need to get real, Brandon. You're going to need to get into hospital today. We're going to have to find out, is it malignant or benign? But ultimately, it's not going to matter. You're going to have it surgically removed. And so I negotiated with her for some time to at least try to heal on my own. And I said, if I can get the bleeding to stop over the next 3 days, how much time can you give me? And she gave me exactly a month's time. And I'll never forget this. At this point, I've been getting all this grave detail about my prognosis, and I've got my best girlfriend in. I've taken her in with me. And we walk outside the doctor's office, and at this point, I'm shaken like a leaf. I mean, my mind's going a million miles a minute. My heart's thumping through the roof. And I'm holding my girlfriend's hand, and I stepped outside this medical clinic, and I looked up, and in front of me was a mimosa tree, a tree I hadn't even noticed going into her clinic. And as I looked up at that tree, it was like time just stopped. And I was arrested by the beauty of this tree. These golden blossoms that looked like golden rain. And as I looked at this tree in what is called in spiritual circles, I had a Sartori moment where time just stopped and my mind wound down, and out of nowhere, waves of gratitude came pouring just for the privilege and the blessing to see this beautiful tree and to smell a fragrance I hadn't smelled going in, just for the privilege of being allowed to breathe. And when my mind got so still, out of nowhere came a gut knowing somehow I would be guided to heal. And even though I didn't know how that would be, I was so grateful for all the work going on in the field of cellular healing, and specifically at that time for the work of Deepak Chopra. And Chopra, he did a radical thing at that time. At that time, he was a chief medical officer in a hospital in Boston. And he did a radical thing as a medical doctor. He said, we know enough about what causes people to get ill and die. I want to find out what makes them heal without medical intervention of any kind, without drugs or surgery. I want to find out. So he amassed hundreds and ultimately thousands of case studies of people who had healed without medical intervention. And after reviewing all these case studies, he could finally only had two qualities in common. One was that through some act of grace or spontaneous event, they actually got access to this that he called the infinite intelligence, the part of you that makes your heart beat and your eyes shine and your hair grow. This vast field of love, of oneness, of awareness that you came in as when you were newly born. The second thing that they had in common was that through some act of grace or spontaneous event, they actually got access to this that he called the cell memories. And as I shared earlier, we know that inside the body, the cells are always replicating, but they replicate at varying speeds. So for instance, if you look at a liver, within 6 weeks' time, the liver cells will die off and be replaced by new regenerative cells. Same is true, and that's in 6 weeks' time. Stomach lining, less than 3 days. If you've ever had a suntan, you'll notice your tan fades in 3 weeks. That's because the old cells slough off and are replaced by new cells. The one that just blows my mind are the eye cells. Do you know that when you get an eye operation, and my mother had this, otherwise I could never believe it to be true, but they discovered that the internal eye, that the cells replace themselves in less than 2 days' time. And the only way I could put this into a context was when my mom had that famous eye operation, where they slit her eye open, inserted a lens, put the flap back, and put a patch on. And a day and a half later, not even 2 days later, she could see clearly. There won't be a single molecule in your body a year from now that was here today. But Chopra asked a question that no one else was asking. Chopra found out that what they had in common was that they got access to the infinite intelligence, and somehow they got access to the cell memory that was stored inside the body. And if somehow they released the consciousness, somehow got access to that programming stored inside the cell, and somehow let it go, when new cells were born, they were born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. Now, I knew all this science. I'd actually seen the case studies, but I can tell you something. You can know all the science on the planet. You can understand how cells replicate and that various cells replicate at varying speeds. You can even know that it's possible to get in touch with the infinite intelligence of the body, that it's actually possible to get access to these cell memories. But unless you have a method, it was no more than an inspiring vision of possibility for me. And that's where I stood when I was looking at that mimosa tree. And yet I had this gut knowing somehow I would be guided to heal. And so I was catapulted on this life-changing, spiritual, radical healing journey. And part of the great good gift of my own healing journey was I found a means for all of us in a very direct, practical, and repeatable way to get access to that infinite intelligence, to the part of you that makes your heart beat and your eyes show and your glow and your hair grow. And I also found the means for us in a very real and practical way to go on a journey inside your body, to actually get access to these cell memories, and not only to unearth them, to unearth the old buried trauma, the old buried pain, the unspoken words, all the things that you were feeling at that time that you didn't have a manual how to deal with. And so you just shut down. And so you get access to that actual trauma, to that cell memory, and go through a deep, very gentle but powerful process of release and letting go and understanding, ultimately forgiveness. And when forgiveness happens, it's almost as if you let go of that whole story of pain, me and my pain. And it's not just forgiveness of other people, it's forgiveness of God, that this was allowed to happen in your life. Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of life. And it is a wholehearted forgiveness where you finally let go of that programming. So that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And so in only 6.5 weeks' time, and I ended up having what I call a journey process 3 times in that time, unearthing the cell memories and going through this, it was like a download from grace, this process. I ended up in Cedars-Sinai Hospital in LA, and I was diagnosed to be textbook perfect clean, completely tumor-free. And so that original process, as raw and basic and new and innocently as it had been given to me, it became the foundation for what is now called the journey. And here we are 30 years later, and of course, in working with people with all kinds of trauma, everything from divorce to loss of a loved one to illness, the wake-up calls can come in that way, to all the trauma that's happening in Israel right now with war and loss of loved ones' lives and my sister-in-law, she just lost her youngest son. And it's a kind of pain, and I know you know this pain in Israel. No mother was given the tools of how to cope with the loss of their youngest son, who was only 26 years old. And, the pain is unbearable. And she's written to me so many times to say, oh, thank God for the journey, because I'm not sure. When I walked into the ocean, I didn't know if I would turn around and come back. And so this is the kind of pain that is happening in Israel. And thank God, she said, I have the journey process, because as painful as it is, I have the tools to find peace in myself and to find a way to mourn healthfully, in a way that I can still be a mother to my 3 other children. And so this is what I wish for all of you. And so I would pray that all of you would use this time as a wake-up call to begin your journey, that not to wait for illness to come, like those people in those 3 hospitals in Israel. They waited until they didn't heed whatever wake-up call they got, and their trauma manifested as illness. I mean, when I first time got inside the tumor, the cell memory there was cell memories of violent childhood abuse. Now, of course, as a therapist in life, I'd been through years and years in New York City of therapy, of talk therapy, psychoanalysis with that whole childhood trauma. I thought I had handled it. But when I got inside my body, I realized I hadn't handled it. And it had manifested as disease at the age of 39 years old. So the reason I'm sharing this now is all of you are in this basically a cauldron of continuous trauma happening. And it's my prayer to give you some tools tonight and a deeper invitation to listen to your soul, to heed a wake-up call that it's time to come home to the peace inside, the love that is here, the truth that is your essence, and to clear whatever traumas hold you back, shut you down, whatever cages you put around your heart, whatever defense mechanisms, whatever lampshades you've put over your light, unknowingly. As you've steeled yourself, you've braced yourself against all this trauma. That bracing has to go somewhere. It goes inside the body. And so if I had to say in a nutshell, what is the journey process? The best way I could describe it to you is to say that we, all of us, come into this life as this radiant, shining awareness, as a vast field of love, of peace, an enlightened awareness that is a oneness that we feel ourselves to be part of and in everything. That's how vast this infinite intelligence is, this awareness, this love is, that is your essence. As a matter of fact, science will tell you that when you are newly born and in the first days, hours, weeks of your life, you feel yourself to be this vast field of love. So much so that when mother's hand comes before your eyes, you feel mother's hand as actually being part of you, not separate from you, as part of you. That's how vast this field of enlightened awareness is. But unfortunately, through the course of life's pains and trials, this radiant presence that is your essence, it gets covered. It gets covered over with a series of traumas and shutdowns and lies and limitations, criticisms and judgments. And it can be something simple, like you're 3 years old and you're crying about something. And your mother says, come, we've got to dry your tears now. We've got to get off to nursery school. And the little you gets it. Oh, I'm not allowed to feel, at least not those feelings that have tears. And the very first shutdown happens. Now you start shutting one emotion down, you start shutting them all down. I can remember being from a violent household. The way I used to escape was into my children's books. And I used to love to read my children's books. And of course, I became a good reader and a good speller. And I can remember when I was 8 years old, I got chosen to represent our little elementary school in a big county-wide spelling bee, which is a contest that we have in the United States, where all the schools, all the parents, all the teachers, all the students come together in a stadium. And I was standing on stage representing the third graders in my school, and I'd already spelled 3 difficult words. Then they gave me one of the easiest words in the English language, the word fleet. Now, I'd never heard or seen the word fleet in any of my children's books, but I had seen the word flea, an insect. And I said, F-L-E-A-T, and the whole audience was hushed. And then it erupted into laughter. No one had given me a manual. How do you deal in mass humiliation in front of all your teachers, your students, the parents, in front of everyone you know? And I looked to my mom, who was sitting in the 3rd row, and I looked to her for support. And she looked at me and shook her head as if I was the greatest disappointment in her life, and just went, and it was like this wall just came slamming down inside of me. And I retreated to the back of the stage to sit with the other losers. And that day I decided I'm so stupid. People will only ever laugh at me. I'll never be good in anything I do. I'll never amount to anything. I'll never succeed. I'm just a laughingstock. It's like this, layer upon layer of these mini traumas. I can remember I was 16 years old, and I got a crush on my first crush on a boy, and I tried to impress him, and you know how that goes. I made a total fool of myself, and I watched the first love in my life literally run out of my life. And I was running after him. And of course, that day, I decided I'm just so unlovable. I will never attract someone I'm in love with. I'm just not attractive enough. Layer upon layer of shutdowns. Then when we get to be adults, we cover the whole mess of all these layers of the lies, limitations, shutdowns that have happened. And we cover it all over with this mask of responsibility that we present to the world. And we say, no, I'm good, I'm reliable, dependable, you can count on me. And we present this mask to the world. And then we wonder why it is that everyone thinks we're so full of, and you can finish that sentence. And then if you're very lucky, as we all are right now, life gives us a wake-up call. It can come in the form of the massacre that occurred and a continuation of ongoing war, of a bomb dropping near the airport. It can come in the form of a loss of a loved one. It can come in the form of sirens going off all the time, having to go into your bomb shelters. It can come in the form of a serious illness. comes in so many forms, these wake-up calls, where for one moment you decide to get real. And you crack through this hardened veneer, this mask that you've presented to the world. And you end up opening down through the layers of the lies and the shutdowns and the pain. And ultimately, you end up opening into this vast field of love that is your essence. And you realize it's been there all along. Only like me, you bought into all the layers that covered it. And if you're very lucky, you fall so in love with that peace in life inside. You fall so in love with the truth of who you are that, like me, you will do anything to clear whatever blocks you, whatever shuts you down, whatever limits you, whatever lampshades you put over your light. So if I had to say, what is the journey? In a nutshell, it's about getting real. It's about cracking through the mask, opening down through the layers of all the pain, and opening into this vast field of love and being guided by that infinite intelligence into various parts of your body where the old trauma is buried, and going through a very deep and profound process of healing, release, letting go, understanding what's taken place to you in your life, and ultimately forgiveness, so that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness, devoid of that old trauma, as new regenerative cells. Now, I would just love to give you the whole journey intensive, but that's a 3-day immersion that you can go through with Irit and really undergo not only all the teaching of the work, but in the afternoon to actually cross process and do the process work. And you leave with all the tools that you need to undergo this life-changing, profound, liberating and healing work so that you can offer it to your children, to your loved ones, your family. And I can't do that now, but I'd like for us to begin this journey of beginning to befriend our bodies and kind of getting real. So if you'd like to join me, there's a couple of things I thought we could do here that would support you in beginning to soften and open with yourself and start listening to your body and the willingness to uncover some of what's stored in there, to go through your own process of release and letting go. And so I thought it'd be good, first of all, to start with a little experiment. And all of us have had some point in our life, and I don't care when it is, but it's best to use something more recent rather than something long ago. But there's some point in your life where you've frozen. Someone yelled at you, a siren went off, and you jerked. You lost a loved one, a friend lost a loved one. That someone criticized you in front of other people. You know what I'm talking about. And so if you'd like to join me and just let's see what's really going on when the body shuts down. So if you'd like to join me and just do it as a divine experiment, check it out. You have nothing to lose but some old baggage and everything to gain by giving it a shot. So let's take a nice deep breath in together. Letting it out. And closing your eyes right now. Closing your eyes and just becoming aware of your own awareness, that it's vast and spacious and open in front of you, that it's boundlessly spacious and free behind, infinitely vast to all sides. and letting your heart be as wide as the world. Wide enough to welcome some old recent memory that's happened where something took place and you shut down, or you wanted to withdraw, or you wanted to run away. Anything but actually feel what you were feeling at the time. And so taking in a deep breath in of openness to yourself and blowing that into the room. And the willingness just to uncover something recently that may have happened. We have little tiny things that happen and big things that happened. Doesn't matter which it is. And so breathing a willingness to just explore, to uncover the emotion that was there at the time that you shut down. Breathing that willingness into the room. And trust. Trust in yourself. Trust that your body wants you to heal. And it wants to expose to you what's been happening. Breathing trust in yourself. And now let your awareness drift back. Could be today that something happened that you found that you had a little shock and you withdrew or you shut down in some way, or you wanted to run out of the situation. Could be something that's happened the last week or the last 3 weeks or last months. But let your awareness go back to a time where something took place and you kind of froze, or you kind of froze and then withdrew or wanted to escape. But a moment where you were kind of stopped in your tracks. Let your awareness find that time and go right into that memory right now. Step into it, right to the moment where you got that little shock, where there was a shutdown of some kind, or withdraw, or wanting to escape. Go right to that moment of shutdown, shock, withdraw, or escape. Go right into it. Just feel what that felt like. And now rotate the cameras back through time to the millisecond before you went into that shock. There was an impulse to shut down. So go right back to that moment of impulse to shut down, and then roll the cameras back to the moment before the impulse to shut down happened, and kind of open up with what you were feeling at the time. Just kind of stretch time there. Prior to the impulse to shut down, what were you feeling? And just allow whatever that feeling is, and just quietly speak it out loud in your room. Just quietly speak it out loud. And if you're not sure what you were feeling prior to that impulse to shut down, just open with and ask, what am I really feeling here? What's the real feeling that prompted me to shut down? What is this? What am I feeling? And just allowing that feeling and welcoming it. And then just go into the core of that feeling. And if there were an even deeper emotion in the core of that more surface feeling, I wonder what that more deeper emotion might be. It might be quiet as a whisper, so just stay open to whatever feeling is here. And just welcome it. And just surrounding it with your own love and going into the core of it. And asking if there were an even deeper emotion in the core of this, what might that deeper feeling be? And just opening gently with whatever feeling is there. And just welcoming that. And just surrounding it with your own love. And right now, you know, if a little child came to you and said, Daddy, or Mommy, I'm scared, you'd say, oh, honey, come here. And you'd embrace the little child. And you'd say, you know, we all get scared sometimes. And in this way, embrace whatever feeling is here. You don't have to fix it or change it or analyze it. Just love it. Just welcome it. Just accepting it. Okay. So taking a nice deep breath in, letting it out, and opening opening the eyes now. So I'm trusting that you kind of got a glimpse or an opening or touched into some of the emotions that are stored here, that when the shutdown happens, there's an emotion that you're feeling that is prompting that shutdown. And so these emotions then get stored inside the body. So if you'd like to join me, even though I can't give you the full journey process, I'd like to do what I call a gentle welcome right now, which can take you on a journey inside your body just to begin to communicate with your body, to open with your body, to feel with your body, to listen to what the body wants to say, to really be present to what your body's trying to reveal to you. You know, one of the things I've learned about the body with working with hundreds of thousands of people over the last 30 years is the body will never give you something you're not ready to face. So if it shows up, it means you are ready to face it. So if you'd like to join me, let's do another divine experiment here, a sort of gentle opening with our own bodies, and we can begin learning baby steps towards this inner listening process to the body and to the being. And so let's once again take a nice deep breath in and letting it out. And once again, closing the eyes and breathing this openness into the room, open to whatever body wants to reveal. And now the willingness just to be like a child and to go on this little internal adventure, to let the body reveal what it wants to reveal today. So breathing that willingness again into the room. And trust. Trust that your soul brought you here tonight. That your soul actually wants you to heal. It wants you to come home. Trusting in your own essence. Trusting your heart. Trusting your being. Breathing trust into the room and flooding the room with trust. And then this willingness to be exposed to whatever you're ready to be exposed to. So breathing that exposure into the room. And letting the heart be as wide as the world. wide enough to welcome all of life into this vast open sky of your being, into this vast open sky of all acceptance, all love. And then now turning our gaze inside the body. And you know this already, that the body is like a container full of all kinds of emotions. And you know, our emotions, they're like little kids. You know, some are loud and attention seeking. Some of our feelings are shy and scared. And others of your emotions, like a little kid that you've rejected so many times, they hide behind closed doors and underneath lids. They don't trust you anymore, and they hide. And you might even say you're sorry. You rejected those emotions so many times. And let your body and your being know that for just this little process, you're going to be open. You're going to be present. You're going to listen to yourself. You're going to allow your body to feel what's here. And so, locating in your body some area where there's a little tension or stress or holding or hiding or some sort of contraction is going on. Locate that area where there just may be this tension or contraction or stress, and take a deep breath in of your own acceptance, and now flood that area with the acceptance. Let that area be softened and opened, tenderized. And if there were a feeling hiding there, what might that feeling be? Might be quiet as a whisper. But if there were a feeling there, what might that feeling be? Just allowing it, accepting it, welcoming it. And if this area could speak and had words, what would it say? How does it make you feel emotionally? Give it a voice right now. If it could speak, what would it say right now? And as you hear the words, how do they make you feel emotionally? Or perhaps a picture is showing up. If a picture is showing up, step into it. How are you feeling in that picture? Or perhaps it's like there's this lid covering over this area. Just imagining that there is a lid there, taking hold of that lid, and like you would lift off, peel off the lid of a can of peanuts, take hold of this lid and lift it off. What's hiding here? Welcoming whatever's here, and also whatever's not here. Taking a deep breath in of acceptance, flooding that area with acceptance, and now coming to neutral inside yourself, and locating another area where there might be little tension or stress or holding, hiding, some sort of contraction going on. Locate that area. Taking a deep breath in of acceptance. Flood that area with your own acceptance. Letting it be softened and marinated and tenderized and open. And if there were a feeling starting to arise out of that area, I wonder what that feeling might be. Even if you're not sure what it is, what might this feeling be? Give this area a voice. If it could speak and had words, what would it say right now? Just open to what the body's trying to tell you right now. And as you listen to the words, how do they make you feel emotionally? Welcoming whatever's here, whatever's not here, or if a picture's here, step into it. How are you feeling in the picture? Or maybe there is that lid. Let's take hold of that lid. Let's lift it off. What's hiding here? Welcoming whatever's here and also whatever's not here. How does it make you feel? Taking a deep breath in of acceptance, flooding that area with acceptance. And now coming to neutral. And finding yet a third area where there may be a little tension or stress or holding or hiding going on. Again, locate that area where that contraction is or the heldness is or hiding is happening. Locate that area. Take a deep breath of acceptance, flooding that area with acceptance, letting it soften and open and be marinated, tenderized. And if there were a feeling arising, what might it be? If it could speak and had words, what would it say right now? Give it a voice. And as you listen to the words inside, how do they make you feel emotionally? If a picture's here, step in it. How are you feeling in the picture? Or perhaps it feels like there's a door that something's hiding behind. Take a key right now, unlock the door and open the door. What's hiding here? How does it make you feel emotionally? Welcoming whatever's here and whatever's not here. Taking a deep breath in of acceptance and flooding the area with acceptance. Coming to neutral inside yourself. And now, checking your body, and if it feels appropriate, and only you can know this, you might like to make a promise to your body that you are going to remain present to yourself. You're going to start listening to yourself. You're really going to open with your body. Be gentle with yourself. Love whatever emotions are here and be present instead of stuffing them away and burying them and letting them show up as something else down the line. That right now, you're going to begin this journey of opening and being present to your body. So if it feels appropriate, you might like to make that promise to yourself. Taking a nice deep breath in, letting it out. And letting the heart be as wide as the world again. Is vast and spacious and infinite in front, boundless behind, and free and endless to all sides. Taking a nice deep breath in and sighing it out. And when the eyes are ready, you can open them now into this vast field of awareness. Taking another nice deep breath in, letting it out. And if the eyes have not opened, this is your invitation to open your eyes now. And you can open your eyes now. And so, beloveds, even though I cannot take you through the whole very deeply immersive work of the journey, which thankfully you have in Israel, there's so many journey practitioners. At least through this, you have learned that it's safe to befriend your body, to welcome whatever emotions it wishes to reveal, and to open with whatever's showing up, to listen to whatever your body wants to reveal, whatever words are here, whatever pictures are here, and to begin this journey of welcoming our emotions and allowing them. And so what my prayer is for everyone here is that you heed this wake-up call that we're all receiving right now, and you decide it's worth it to begin your journey home, to really, truly, in a very real way, uncover that peace inside, that enlightened awareness that is your essence, and to be guided actually by that peace into the body where specific cell memories are stored, and to go through your own process of release and understanding and forgiveness, so that when new cells are born, they're born free from that old trauma, from that old pain, from that old consciousness. You know, I'm so aware of how profoundly healing the journey has been for the hundreds of thousands of people around the world who have healed without medical intervention using the journey. And still, my prayer is you don't wait for the illness to come. You know, that you give yourselves wake-up calls now so that we can all uncover the diamond, this radiant love that is ourselves, and lives our lives from this. And so I'm going to turn you back over to Irit, and she can share with you how you can really gift yourself a very deeply immersive journey, a 3-day retreat where you will have a chance to really not only get all the teachings from me, but also you'll have journey practitioners who's gone a year-long training with me and completed 45 case studies, and they'll be there to hold an embrace of support. And you'll be getting one-to-one process work every afternoon. And it's always our prayer that not only do you leave feeling washed clean, whole and free, but you have the tools, the skills to deal with whatever comes your way emotionally, physically, mentally, and that you can use this work with your loved ones. And so I'm going to turn you over to Irit, and she can share with you what's happening there and how to support yourself through the journey. And until then, a deep shalom and a heartfelt.
שלום עמוק לכולכם.
Yeah,
תודה
and
רבה. Thank you. תודה רבה. From the bottom of our heart. I'm sure everybody will agree. It was beautiful. Thank you so much. And helpful. Meaningful.
Beautiful. And a heartfelt shalom to everyone.
שלום. תודה רבה, ברנדון.
Mm.
טוב, יקרים. אתם חוויתם את זה כמוני. אני לא צריכה לדבר על זה הרבה. אני רק רוצה להגיד לכם שבאמת, אם אתם רוצים, אם השתכנעתם, אם הבנתם, אפילו בקמצוץ, מה באמת המסע יכול, כמה הוא יכול באמת לעזור, יש הקלטה, אנחנו נפרסם את ההקלטה ברגע שנאבד אותה, צריך לאבד אותה, ואנחנו, גם אני אשלח לכם מייל והודעות וואטסאפ, גם על הסדנה, גם על מי שרוצה ללמוד את המסע, מי שרוצה, אם יש לו שאלות, אתם יכולים לפנות אלינו, יש לכם לכולנו גם את המייל שלנו, גם את הטלפון שלנו, אנחנו נשמח מאוד, אנחנו נשמח מאוד לשמוע אם יש לכם שאלות, אנחנו, כל הצוות ישמח מאוד, תכתבו אם יש לכם, אתם יכולים בצ'אט, אתם יכולים לשלוח לנו מייל, אתם יכולים לשלוח לנו וואטסאפ, אתם יכולים לטלפן אלינו, אנחנו פה לענות לכם על כל השאלות, נורא נשמח אם תצטרפו אלינו למסע, לסדנה של המסע, אנחנו באמת כולנו, מי שעבר את המסע יודע שאנחנו, הכלים של המסע עוזרים לנו להתמודד עם מה שקורה לנו פה. הרגע כתבתי את הטלפון שלי, אני כותבת אותו שוב, 077-466-5292, זה מגיע אליי ישירות לנייד, יש לכם, תודה מותק. אבל אני באמת, קודם כל אתם הייתם נהדרים, הייתה הקשבה ממש, אנשים עשו עבודה, ממש הרגשנו את זה, אתם תקבלו מחר ממש את כל הפרטים, במייל, בוואטסאפ, איך נרשמים, אם רוצים להירשם, למי להתקשר אם יש שאלות, 077-466-5292. אני באמת מאחלת לכולכם שתתנו לעצמכם את המתנה הזאת, שהיא המסע, אין לי מילים אחרות להגיד את זה. אז תודה רבה לכם שבאתם. תודה רבה לכולכם, באמת תודה רבה לכולכם. תודה שבאתם, תודה שהשתתפתם, היו הרבה אנשים, עשו עבודה טובה. ברנדון הייתה נהדרת, ממש, אותי היא ממש נגעה, והיא אוהבת את ישראל, אין, אנחנו כולנו צריכים את זה, אנחנו כולנו מעריכים את זה. תגידו תודה רבה, תפתחו את הלב, תגידו באמת, תודה על הערב הזה, תודה לברנדון, תודה לנו שבאתם כולכם, אם יש פה